All right, good. Edna was setting up stuff. Thank you, Reverend Tony. And of course, Neil. I got here early today and I thought, I bet I'm so early I'm going to have to sit in the parking lot. And of course, people were already here setting up. So thanks to everybody who makes all of this happen. It's so great. And before I get to the talk, let me just say welcome to all of you who have the daylight savings built into your phones. I have that, but then I kept thinking, did it really happen? So I had to Google, what time is it right now? And then it was like Melbourne or something, and I thought, no, what time is it right now where I'm at? So it'll be funny to see who comes in the door in about 40 minutes from now, if anybody. Also, a couple things. I've got some classes coming. We have a continuation class for the people who already have taken Artist Way classes, including some of the people in this room. So that's the 9:30 a.m. Artist Way class. But if you've not been in an Artist Way class before, we have the Artist Way for Early Birds starting in, I think, 2 weeks from today at 8 a.m. on Zoom. And on Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Thank you. Yeah, that's an important piece of information. So that'll be up online, and it's a great community. Yes, Tony? And my Artist Way companions here, yeah, it's worth it. All right. Oh, I know what you all really wanted, the jokes. Yes! Okay. So I have 3. I just couldn't decide which one to use. So I'll just use the first one that's on here. So there was a tourist that was in Galway, Ireland. And this is an Irish joke because next week, oh, by the way, and to Andy, this was his first time hosting. So, good job. Excellent job, brother. Okay, so St. Patrick's Day is next week. A tourist in Galway. Galway's on the western end of Ireland. And he's kind of confused because he wants to get to Dublin, and he sees an old Irish man, Paddy. Of course his name is Paddy. And he goes up to Paddy and he says, excuse me, sir, do you know the quickest way to get to Dublin? Paddy thinks for a minute and he's like, well, I don't know if my Irish accent's any good, we'll find out. He goes, well, are you gonna go by car, by bus, by bicycle, or are you walking? And the guy says, well, I've got a car, I'll go by car. What's the quickest way to Dublin? Paddy thinks, takes a sip of his Guinness, puts it back down, and he thinks, he goes, you say you're going by car? And the guy goes, yeah, by car. Paddy goes, well, that's the fastest way. That's a very Irish joke, by the way. So I'll reserve the other 2 for the next 2 years. Okay, so let's talk about what we're here to talk about, which is a grand rising. That's the theme of our Centers for Spiritual Living this year, a grand rising. And we have the yearly theme, and then it's divided into monthly themes, and then it's divided into weekly themes. So in a nutshell, a grand rising. The monthly theme that supports a grand rising is that's how we've never done it. And it says it's time to acknowledge our past, good, bad, and ugly, while disentangling ourselves from it. It's time to forgive and release old patterns that no longer serve us. The monthly theme, if we're stepping into our grand rising, we must be willing to embrace a new way of experiencing and expressing ourselves. This month, we'll look at what newness feels like as it inspires our evolution. And what I'm supposed to talk about is this. Today's topic, it's time to acknowledge our past. It's time to forgive and release old patterns, even those that used to work well, if they no longer serve us. Let's replace our old, I've always done it, blah, blah, blank, 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 with a new script. Let's substitute I've always to up until now, fill in the blank, but now I choose fill in the blank. So I thought I was not going to talk about this, but like Reverend Tony mentioned last week, we work and we think about this for a long time, and then at 3 in the morning, this always happens to me, and I always think it's never going to happen again, but at 3 in the morning, God woke me up and said, it's like that little meme of the little girl going, saying, I've got something else for you to talk about. Remember, you weren't going to talk about that thing? You are. So I am. I'm going to do it. And I like this theme. Up until now, it makes a lot of sense. You know, it's that idea that up until now, it's like in the Bible, they talk about the new wine can't go into old wineskins, because what happened, and I never understood that until I really actually looked it up, and what happens is when you put new wine in old wineskins, the old wineskins would burst because they couldn't take the new wine that was going in it. So that's what it is, up until now. Up until now allows us to be in the present moment, because we can't just be on automatic pilot if we stop and say to ourselves, up until now. And when we live in the present moment, we're not as controlled by fear, like the song you just sang, or by the past or anything like that. And yet, most of us, maybe all of us, but most of us at least, I feel safe to say, have things from the past that actually do control us and pop up and all of that. And I'm going to talk about that today. Up until now, things happen up until now. And I'm going to use the lens of our childhood, but it doesn't have to be childhood. It could be things that happened to us last week or last year, whatever. But I think many of us can relate to the fact that we had things happen to us as children. I don't know if I've ever met anybody who hasn't, but it's possible they exist, but it's also possible unicorns exist. I just haven't seen one yet. You know, we have things that happen to us in our past, and they're things that we should deal with so that we can be free from them, like the song Ty just sang says. So there are different approaches to how we deal with the things that are present in our psyche, in our subconscious and conscious minds. And you can do a lot of different things, but if you're here in this room or you're listening to these words, chances are you are on the spiritual path. And therefore you are taking a spiritual outlook as you work with whatever modalities you do, but there are special tools that are available to us on the spiritual path. And so what does the spiritual path mean? For us, in this teaching, we believe there's a power greater than us that has created all life, including the life that is each one of us. And that power that is greater than us exists within us, through us, as us, and is us, each one of us. There's not a duality in the universe or in our life. There's only a oneness. And that's the path that we take, and that's the approach that we take. Now, as we go on in the spiritual path and we start dealing with things that come up, we have kind of like a heal and grow approach, right? Something will come up, we use spiritual tools, and we heal, and we grow from it, and we keep going. The thing is, though, that sometimes these things pop up again. And I don't know about you, but then when they pop up again, I think to myself, didn't I heal that? Maybe I didn't heal that. Let me really heal it this time. Let me go down and do the dirty work and heal it. I'm going to take, you know, Reverend Michelle's shadow class. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and we really heal it. And we think it's gone, and then it pops up again. Now, that is because, I used to really get bothered by that, by the way, but that is because the spiritual path is not a linear path. It's not A to Z. So I healed B, so now I get to go on to C, like a video game, and then you keep going to the thing. It's a spiral. The spiritual path is a spiral path. Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way, she says it this way. She says, remember that this is a spiral path. You will circle through some of the issues over and over again, but each time at a different level. And that's what happens for us, especially in regards to things in our childhood. You might continue to heal them, but as you go deeper, the deeper part of that, the deeper meanings open back up for you. Now, when I first started healing, I guess when I first started, our childhoods are our normal. It's normal for us. And I think that I first, as an adult, as a kid, I always wanted what other families seemed to have, because they always seemed happier than ours behind closed doors. And but as an adult, I think I first started realizing it when I was in my 20s or something. And I remember really clearly going into a bookstore and seeing a book, and I bought it and read it. It's very good. It's called Legacy of the Heart. But what caught me is the subtitle, because I always felt upset about my childhood, let's put it that way, mildly. And the subtitle of this book was The Spiritual Advantages of a Painful Childhood. And that was the first time in my life, I think, that I consciously thought to myself, oh, I can change how I think about my childhood. I can't change what happened to me in my childhood, but I can change how I think about my childhood. And I read that book, and it certainly helped. And then that's about the time I started discovering this teaching. There was another book that helped. I didn't actually read the book. I didn't need to, because the title was so good. I got it. And the title was, It's Never Too Late to Have a Happy Childhood. And it was a book for people, adult children of alcoholics or something, and it was not a book for me to read, but that title never left me. It's a process, it's a process we're all on. And, as we do the spiritual path, we develop the gift of not only being in the present moment, but the gift of hindsight. And we can change the way that we can see what happened to us. I think of it over the years, I've really thought about this a lot. I've worked with this a lot, both with myself, the people that I've worked with, and people in the world that I've witnessed, and even in movies and things like that. But I've seen that there's like 5 levels that we go through as we begin to grapple with the things that happen to us. And so these are Reverend Joel's 5 things, TM. Nobody else can write a book about this till I write mine first. Anyway, the first level is that we feel victimized by the things that happen to us. And I think by the shaking of the heads in the room, people understand that. A lot of people understand that. The second level, though, when we begin to go on the spiritual path, is we begin to develop some understanding. And you've heard this phrase, hurt people hurt people. And that's really that level of understanding. We begin to look at a certain age, I think you have to be a certain age to really start seeing that the people who hurt us, whether it's our parents or parental figures or teachers or whatever, they were hurt also. And we begin to understand that. And as we understand that, then we can go to the third level, which is compassion. Oh, wow. They did the best they could. They did better. In many cases, they did better than what they got. And you can get some compassion for them. And then once you reach that stage, it's just a quick half step up to going into forgiveness. That's the 4th stage, where you can really, truly forgive them. I remember my spouse, Alan, one time we were in bed asleep, and he woke up and sat up, and I was like, what? And he goes, I have to forgive my parents. And I said, how are you going to do that? And he goes, I just did it. And he did. I mean, he did. It was like that. I didn't have that experience. Unfortunately, mine took a lot longer. It was that spiral thing, and then but once we forgive them, then we can move, especially those of us on the spiritual path, can move to that 5th level. And that is that we can have gratitude for our past. That's a hard place to go to when you're looking at it from step 1 as a victim, or even the other steps. But when you can look back and you can see that you don't wish those things on yourself or anyone else, but you did the best you could, and look where it got you, and you can have gratitude. And also gratitude for the compassion and forgiveness that you showed to other people. So, that's the up until now. And I got another lesson in that last weekend. I wasn't here. I was in Denver. And I was in Denver because I have an aging parent who is having memory issues. Anybody have any people they know that has memory issues going on? It's tough. It's really, really hard. No, not us, people in our life. But it's very tough and it's very complicated, and I don't need to tell that story. I'm going to talk about my reaction to what happened last week. So I'm with this parent who has really, the memory issues really advanced quickly, let's put it that way. And it was really frustrating. Talk about being in the present moment. I'm with this person that I've known all of my 29 years. Wait, why was that funny? My 29 years times 2, 58 years. And it's not that person anymore. So, you know, I've known Neil for years. I have a wealth of experience up to now in how to deal with Neil. I know certain things about Neil, and I don't have to relearn them. But when I think I know somebody and they're not there, and it's different, I can't be in the past anymore. I can't rely on that, because now I have to be in the present moment, and it's not like a pleasant present moment, it's an unpleasant one. And so I was there dealing with all of that and the up to now stuff. I literally had to be in the present moment. It was very frustrating, it was very scary. It was incredibly difficult, as you can imagine, and many of you have experienced this. I was telling this to a friend of mine who's in our thinking, and this friend, thinking that they were doing something really lovely, said, "Oh, when you see your parent, don't think of them as having memory issues. Just deny it. Deny, deny, deny," this person said, just like that. Deny, deny, deny. And that is kind of like that is in our movement, that idea that you shouldn't acknowledge things that are less than perfect, because God is perfect, right? So if you acknowledge things that are not perfect, then what you're doing is you're giving power to those things, so you should deny, deny, deny. That is all around the movement. For me, that creates two main issues. One is that it creates what's called a spiritual bypass. And what that means is that you kind of live in this bubble and you don't deal with what is, and so that's a spiritual bypass. And the other thing is it sets up a duality, which our teaching teaches not to do. We teach oneness. So if we say, oh, God is great, God is good, and just see this person, but don't see that, suddenly we've created another that is not included in the oneness. So I think when the original New Thought pillar teachers back in the day were talking about denials, they weren't saying don't see the thing that is, they're saying don't give power to the thing that you see that is. Ernest Holmes very famously was asked once, Dr. Holmes, I have a headache, what should I do? And he said, take an aspirin and then pray. He didn't say, there is no such thing as headaches. So that's where I was at, and I couldn't deny it. I prefer thinking of it as like what the mystics think about with things that happen, which is they believed, the mystics would always teach that everything that happens to us is a doorway into spiritual awakening. Everything. So when things happen to us, we don't have to be, victimized by it. We can use the spiritual teachings that we have to then open the doorway and see through it to the beautiful divine lesson that is contained within sometimes very challenging or troubled experiences. That is a skill that takes practice on the spiritual path, and I know many of you have that. The Buddha would say we are as happy as we are unattached to our story of what is. In other words, we're happy in relation to the story that we attach to things that go on. Because when we attach stories to experiences, we're not in the present moment again. And Louise Hay said, the point of power is always in the present moment. And so when you're in the present moment, you can't be in the past and you can't be in the future because there's no power there. The power is only in what is. So bringing it back to my story, there I am on the day that I was before I was gonna leave, and we were in a McDonald's, my parents' favorite restaurant, and it was just not great. It was really frustrating. About an hour and a half, we were having this very difficult conversation, which is very much like our family. We always have difficult conversations in public places. And so there we were having this, and it was back and forth, and I was still struggling with the past. I was not in the present moment. I was still like, but no, but you've always, and you know, but, and don't you remember? And I'm struggling. And of course, they're struggling too, because that's not, you know, they're trying and they're like, well, but wait, what? And they're having their issues. And we literally spent about an hour and a half like this, very frustrated. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I do now? So I always do two things, or I usually do two things, and I have for years, do these two things in a lot of moments. One is I just say a very quick prayer, and the prayer is this: guide me through this. Now, who do I say the prayer to? That's, you know, for me, whatever my higher power is, you say it to whatever your higher power is. And so for me, it's, you know, it's, sometimes I heard somebody refer to a higher power of God as the great friend. And I think about that a lot. So I often will think of great friend as I say, just guide me through this. And then the second thing I do after I say, guide me through this, I say, okay, so what is my next right step to take? If I'm guided, from that moment, I'm guided, what is the next right step to take? And I've learned, here's a hint, the next right step to take is usually the one I don't want to take. Unfortunately, you know, because I'm resisting. There we are not being, you know, there's the Buddha again. So I just did that. I said, guide me through this, took a breath and said, okay, what is the next right step to take? And I thought, oh, just say a prayer. And I did not go immediately to our affirmative prayer. For some reason in that moment, the prayer that came up for me was the Serenity Prayer. Now, how many of you know the Serenity Prayer? Most of us do, right? And the Serenity Prayer originally came from a theologian and intellectual, an American, back in the early 1930s, Reinhold Niebuhr. And I bet that's the first time that name has ever been uttered in this building. Huh. It's probably the first time I've ever actually said his name out loud. Anyway, and it was quickly adopted by the YMCA and schools, and AA took it, and now it's in all the recovery, and it's still used. Hallmark did a whole series of cards on it, etc. But really, basically what it says is, great friend, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That's the prayer that came up for me, out of the blue, in McDonald's, in southern Denver, Colorado, last weekend, 1 week ago today. And I thought, okay, wow, that came up for a reason, so what can I not change? Well, I cannot change my parent and the experience, the bigger experience they're having. I, of myself, cannot change that experience. Okay, I'm gonna have to accept that. That's what I had not been doing. And then I thought, okay, so what can I change? Of course, it's always back at you. Darn it. I'm telling you, sometimes spirituality is the booby prize, because it's like, oh, it's me again. Okay, so let me surrender this, and let me realize, what can I have the courage to change in this moment? And I thought, oh, I can change living from the past and be with this person in the now. I can change being resentful and unhappy, being frustrated and angry, being this and that. I can change those things. So I did. I took a breath and I did. And when my energy changed, when one person's energy changes in an exchange, everything changes. It has to. And I completely shifted, and guess what? that my parent completely shifted in an instant as well. And we ended up staying like another hour having a great time. A great time. And we ended up, I had brought some cards, and we ended up playing her favorite card game right there in McDonald's, and we had such a good connecting. And when we left, she looked at me and she goes, wow, this is one of my favorite times with you. And she had already forgotten that hour and a half. And I thought, wow, this stuff really works. I mean, I knew it, but when you see it in the moment, it's like yet again, this stuff really, really works. I could have denied it, deny, but I didn't. I took what is, up until now, moving up, out of the up until now, to what is now, and allowed it to be a door to open to a greater experience. It was hard, but then it wasn't. Then it wasn't hard. And it ended up being wonderful. So, you know, for us, I was resisting that. What are you resisting in your life? Is there anything that you're resisting in your life that's causing you to not have that experience of ease and flow? You know, if you say the words up until now, as they suggest you say, or we say, up until now I felt this about whatever it is, but now I choose to be in the present moment and accept what is. But don't stop there. Then say, now what is, if this is a human problem, what is the spiritual solution that I can now take? Guide me through this. What is the next right step? And if you need to, use the serenity prayer too, because it's really helpful in very key moments in life. Ernest Holmes said this isn't what they had suggested we read, and I love it. Ernest Holmes said, we all have the ability to transcend previous experiences and rise triumphant above them, but we shall never triumph over them while we persist in going through the old mental reactions. I mean, he was thinking of me when he wrote that. I know it. He was thinking. And in the earlier version of The Science of Mind, the 1926 edition, he says, in our Declaration of Principles, he says, we believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that we experience this kingdom in the degree that we become conscious of it. That's what up until now and I now choose does. It's a very simple way for us to say, I am conscious of this, and I will now choose something different. So in closing, let me just use their call to action because it's excellent. While we can be tempted to stay comfortable in our discomfort, reliving the experiences, beliefs, and behaviors of our past, it's time to accept Spirit's invitation into the new, unlimited possibilities of the present. Let's set the intention to shine the light of consciousness into our old, less than conscious habits of thinking and doing. Let's replace our old story of I've always, or in my case, you've always, with a new script of up until now. Starting right now, we can honor and bless past patterns as we gently untangle ourselves from any attachment or resistance. We can forgive what needs to be forgiven, the bad for the pain that it triggered, and the good for its impermanence, ourselves for our own judgments of it all. Today, trusting the truth of Spirit in us, through us, as us, we step with courage and curiosity into this brand new now. Let's just do a quick treatment to not just hear that, but we can feel it all the way into our soul. And we just move to that awareness of the great friend, which is the power of good, the power that is in and through all of us, the power that has always been and always will be and has created all life, including each one of us. And when we move into that place, we are in the present moment, and we can now say, up until now, I have resisted whatever comes to mind. We can also say, Spirit, show me what I've been resisting. And up until now, I can now move into the I now choose. I now choose to remember the oneness of life. I now choose to remember that every human experience I have is a portal to a spiritual awakening, every single one of them. I now choose to believe that right action is moving in and through my life, your life, our lives, right here, right now. And I choose to believe that I continue to keep choosing something greater than what I chose up until now. This is my truth right now. This is what I believe right now. Say it with me. This is what I believe right now, and this is my truth. Together we are going to know this and experience this. And I release these words into law and into love, knowing that even as I say them, they are true right here and right in the now. We're so grateful for that, and together we say, and so it is.
Can you believe it's already been a week since we had the party around the show? It's crazy. So I don't know why everybody's still sitting down though. I don't get this. Come on now. Because we're going to say thank you together. It requires energy. Here we go. I want to say thank you for the way that I walk. Thank you for the way that I talk. Thank you for the songs that I sing. Thank you, yes, for everything. Thank you for the way that I look. Thank you for all that I read in a book. Thank you for the gifts that I bring. Thank you, yes, for everything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Now, if you know the words, you're going to sing a little louder, right? Here we go. I want to say thank you for the way that I walk. Thank you for the way that I talk. Thank you for the songs that I sing. Thank you, yes, for everything. Thank you for the way that I look. Thank you for all that I read in a book. Thank you for the gifts that I bring. Thank you, yes, for everything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Clive. Clive, would you play a little bit? All right, last time. Sing it like you mean it. Here we go. Thank you for the way that I walk. Thank you for the way that I talk. Thank you for the songs that I sing. Thank you, yes, for everything. Thank you for the way that I look. Thank you for all that I read in a book. Thank you for all the gifts that I bring. Thank you, yes, for everything. Thank you. Try to remind now. Thank you. Thank you. I want to say thank you. Happy Sunday. Happy every day. Thank you, Andy.